Desde las sombras de National Palace. Even to the muddy trenches of politics. This is the pigsty, the pigpen of politics with Luis Berman.
Welcome to another edition of the pigsty, the pigpen of politics. Here where cynicism is a religion and honesty is a luxury that the inhabitants of the palace cannot afford. This is another broadcast full of bile, sarcasm, and truths that, even if they hurt here, are told without anesthesia. Today we're going to tear apart the political and geopolitical circus that the fourth transformation is running, because this is no longer a government. This is a tasteless skit that's costing us our skin. I'm Luis Berman, and here we begin. It turns out, my little pigs, that in the fourth transformation, not even the sun can warm them up. Meanwhile, Mrs. Sheinbaum has been busy reciting the mantra that the accusations about her narco-politicians from Sinaloa come from a little office in New York. President Donald Trump, with that subtlety he's known for, decided to give the purge a name and a face. The new prosecutor, James McDonald, already has the task of untangling the web of complicity of Rocha Moya and his cronies, making it even clearer that for the U.S. cabinet, this is not child's play, nor a hallway whim. But the best part isn't the American pressure, it's the response from our inept prey. Meanwhile, anti-drug Zarina Sara Carter from Sinaloa makes it clear they're targeting politicians who sold out to drug cartels, and that the Mexican government is under scrutiny. Sheinbaum prefers to ignore reality, pretending it has nothing to do with her. It's fascinating to see how those insist on defending sovereignty, while in reality, they're being given instructions on who to capture. In other words, even if Chachis and that whole bunch of chimpanchairos squirm all but hurt, the reality is that Mrs. Hacienda faces, do you understand what the United States government orders her to do? And it's not just me saying it. Listen to Sarah Carter herself.
States that they operate in, and we have to be just as tough on them, if not tougher. And that means taking and seizing their financing. And by the way, doing what we're doing right now in Mexico, targeting those even in the government that have sold out to the cartels, that have made it easier for them to operate. You know, getting those extradition, those warrants on them, and working closely with our counterparts like we do with President Sheinbaum, for example. We saw significant progress in Mexico, especially with El Mencho, with CJ&G, when we were able to go after El Mencho. And we did that through our intelligence. But utilizing the Mexican National Guard, the Mexican Special Forces, you know, General Trevilla, his operation, they cooperated with us. We said, look, here's the information. Go get them. And they did. And we'd never seen that before. Not like that, not in that same way, not with that cooperation. And by the way, right now, you know, targeting the folks in Sinaloa, all of the government officials that are part of the Culiacan clan, you know, that have protected the Sinaloa cartel. And Los Chapitos and Los Maitos, and, you know, Joaquin Guzman's, you know, entire operation, El Chapo's entire operation. We are able to do that. One, because the Mexican government, like many of the governments in our hemisphere, know that President Trump means what he says. He just absolutely does. If he said, we are going after you, if you do not cooperate with us, we are going to target you, and you are going to regret it. So do you want to cooperate? Yes or no? And I think also beyond that, it's what's good for them.
But brace yourselves, because anyone with the ability to reason would realize that this is more serious than we thought. But Claudia Sheinbaum, in her cynicism, has already crossed every line. Meanwhile, Mrs. Carter made it absolutely clear what her country's justice system plans to do with those narco-politicians. She comes out today in her Fool the Suckers conference, once again defending the indefensible, says the welfare maid, that it doesn't exist. No, there is no deadline for the United States to provide evidence against Ruben Rocha Moya, and he will not be extradited either. First, he kept nagging and nagging, demanding evidence, and now he hints that even if it exists and is solid, they have no intention of handing him over. It's a narco regime, and she's an accomplice, period. Listen to the nonsense that woman spits out.
There's no deadline. There's no deadline. Would there be a deadline if it were a formal extradition proceeding? Remember that in this case, what an office of the United States Department of Justice requested was the urgent arrest for extradition purposes. We have said that there is no evidence for the urgent arrest and no evidence has been provided. If this request were to be denied the United States or the Department of Justice, this office would still have the possibility to establish a formal trial. In this case, it was a request for urgent detention for extradition purposes.
Honestly, I don't even know anymore if it's an act of rebellion, absolute stupidity, blatant complicity, or a deliberate act of shooting yourself in the foot. Or could it be that everything is coldly planned? We'll see in a moment. Because not even his boss, old Guango, went that far. At least he knew how to lie and execute. Yotiin. But this woman, on the other hand, is as much a leader and stateswoman as I am handsome and clean. The rejected one is quick to use cheap technicalities to justify his inaction with stupid arguments. What an irresponsible way to put the safety and stability of all of Mexico at risk just to protect their narco politicians. But I have no doubt that President Trump will do the job that this shitty government doesn't do and will take away the criminals they are protecting. The people of Mexico are already tired of these cheap speeches that nobody believes anymore. That's why they curse at them and boo them whenever they can. Do you remember that sovereignty rant they love to repeat in the morning press conferences and at rallies in front of the monument to the revolution? Well, in Washington, the gentlemen up north couldn't care less about sovereignty. When it comes to the rames, to their interests, maybe even less than that. Donald Trump's government doesn't play diplomatic games anymore. They're moving the way to Venezuela. And without asking for permission or knocking on the door, they took down the leader of the Tren de Aragua. Boom! A quick and lethal attack. That, my piggies, wasn't just a capture. It was a statement of intent. And the message is clear. As Sarah Carter said, if you don't cooperate, you'll regret it. DEA acts, all high and mighty, shouting about sovereignty at every party event. But in the darkness of the hallways, the story is very different. Have a divorce, and not the kind that ends with lawyers, but the kind that ends in betrayal. The Palenque faction, those romantics from the old guard, the ones who still live in the nostalgia of the old man with tired feet, is Manuel López Obrador. They continue with the antagonistic discourse. Their only defense is to shout for evidence. But what they don't tell us is the reality of the security apparatus, while politics throws a tantrum. The Sedena, the Navy, and the Secretariat of Citizen Security have already opened the door to the CIA, the DEA, and the whole alphabet of American agencies. Do you realize the irony? Well, the lady says, Don't touch my people. General Travilla, Admiral Morales, and Omar Garcia Garfush are already exchanging WhatsApp messages with the United States Northern Command, submitting themselves. Maybe what we're seeing is part of the Shield of the Americas plan by President Trump's government. Washington is no longer just looking to help. It's looking to dismantle, not just cartels, but also the political networks that shelter them. Do you really think the cartels are invisible? Come on, they have all the technology to watch them from the sky, with drones and satellites that can even see what they had for breakfast. And the thing is, Rochamoya's fate has been delayed. Does anyone really believe that the narco governor of Sinaloa is calm? The Trump administration already set the deadline. The day they run out of patience, they won't send a diplomatic request, they'll send a commando, just like the one that acted in Venezuela. And you have to keep in mind that there was a meeting between the foreign minister, Lord Cacahuates, Roberto Velasco, and the entire national security team at the Sinaloa Embassy of the United States a few weeks ago. Why did they meet? To ask for permission or to lay all the cards on the table? The Mexican government is buying F-16s and new military equipment, not to defend itself from the empire, but to get in line with the requirements of the Shield of the Americas. They're spending millions. We don't have to please the new owners of the ranch. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, my little piggies, this is what happens when you have a big mouth to talk about non-interference, but your knees are too weak to hold your gaze. Mexico has become Washington's playground, and our political class doesn't know whether to hide or put the chain around their necks. You already know how this works. Just remember, we warned you here in this pigsty. We're facing a coup. A government that lives in a truly parallel reality, built on inflated polls and speeches about sovereignty that fall apart as soon as an American official raises their voice. While they worry about the World Cup and try to cover up their failures, the country keeps bleeding out between drug traffickers walking through the Congress of Michoacan and mayors murdered by crime, who, coincidentally, never received the protection they asked for. Authoritarian populists have an almost artistic ability to keep people from seeing that the country is being dismantled, falling apart. Their great talent is not governing. They're not interested in that, nor are they good at it. Instead, they distract us, so we talk about any nonsense except their disastrous results. The populist is not that saint who loves the people, as their propagandists want to sell us. No, sir. He's simply that politician who dedicates himself to saying exactly what the masses want to hear, manipulating perceptions. Everyone is distracted with this World Cup thing, and it's no coincidence. It's strange, pure strategy. While you're busy watching whether the ball goes in or not, the government takes advantage to destroy, move shady pieces on the board, and basically do whatever they want without anyone complaining too much. The perfect strategy to divide the population. Do you criticize the organization's mistakes or the disaster in management? Do they label you as a traitor who hates Mexico? It's an emotional blackmail, cheap, but it works so that the fanatics go for the throats of those of us who are just trying to point out the harsh reality. The issue is that after the referee blows the final whistle, the country remains, waiting for us with its real problems, the ones that can't be solved with goals or epic narratives. Because the healthcare system will continue to be a graveyard of hospitals without medicine, and the economy will remain in intensive care. Corruption will continue to be the national sport, and of course, the roads will remain death traps for business people and citizens. We have a few months, from now until 2027. That's the time we have left to stop being spectators and become protagonists. As I've told you, the goal is not just to see who wins the election. The goal is to punish the narco party and take back the public sphere. We already know how they play, we already know their tricks, their machinery of lies, and their contempt for the truth. Let's not allow them to distract us with their lies while they steal our future at ENF. And that's where we'll leave things today in the pigsty. Remember that in La Posilga, we don't stay silent. See you in the next episode. Let's see what other dirty trick our honorable politicians come up with to try to cover up the disaster. Long live the resistance, and may your courage serve you well, because we're going to need it. I'm Luis Berman, and I remind you not to forget to subscribe, like, and share this crappy video. I'll read your comment. Goodbye.
This is La Posilga, the pigsty of politics with Luis Berman.